What's up, guys? Welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. On screen, Greg Kirchner. Today is Friday, December 12th, 2025. We usually don't do Friday shows. We usually don't do afternoon shows, but we're both off work today. And Greg, I know you were out of town, so we're doing it today. We're going live. How's that?
The only thing is, what are we going to talk about? I feel like we don't have anything to talk about today.
If only college football gave us content. So today should be fun. We're obviously going to get into the Sherrone Moore stuff in a minute. We're going to get into the Michigan stuff in a minute. We will poke a little bit of fun at it while treading lightly as well. There are some serious circumstances involved with that. So we're gonna take it from a Buckeye perspective, a fan perspective, but we'll do that. We'll also talk about last week's Big Ten title game. We haven't had a chance to talk about that. Obviously, a loss for the Buckeyes, obviously a 13-10 loss before the college football playoff. Maybe that's a little motivating factor. Heisman Trophy gets awarded this weekend. We'll talk about that and several other things of note on the podcast. So, Greg, again, we said, if only there were more to talk about, but let's just start with it. So the Sherrone Moore arrest, the Sherrone Moore firing, I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to let you take first crack at it.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, we will definitely poke our share of fun at it. I guess I'll put a disclaimer off the top. Obviously, this is a situation that it's teetered on that line between fun, funny, and serious. So, all the jokes aside, it's obviously a serious situation when it comes to Sherrone Moore, the woman he was involved with, his family. As much as they are, this is a Michigan thing, and we'll definitely talk about that. Like, I don't want that to get lost, that you do feel for the human side of this whole situation, especially the innocent victims. But that being said, like, what the fuck is happening up there, right? I mean, another situation, and beyond what we know and what has happened, it's from a Michigan standpoint, just another example of a lack of control, a lack of really any semblance of integrity or
right,
anything within this program right now. And that's that is and there are, credit to a lot of Michigan fans that are out there, is like ashamed and just sick at what's happening again, a scandal on top of the scandal. I mean, there's so many, Twitter's crazy right now, but it's like, oh, this is the biggest scandal in college football since the last Michigan scandal from a couple years ago. So it's just another example of, what the hell's going on up there. And, I see the Michigan man here, and we'll talk about that, but it's just, you see it in life all the time, right? It's unfortunately, the people that try to act like the most righteous and the most high and mighty oftentimes are the ones that are the most flawed. And we continue to see it again. And it's basically just giving us kind of free fodder to shake our head at like what the hell is going on, and how they can, turn that place around. But what a series of events.
Yeah. And again, I want to give my 2 cents real quick and just say, again, there are humans involved. There are real people involved with this. Sherrone's family, his wife, I believe, 3 children. So I do not want to make light of this. They are truly the main victims here. His mental health state, I don't know what that's in. It looked like he was in a padded jail cell. And the look did not look good as he went to his hearing earlier today. But we talk college football, and a lot of times in sports, the people you root for, the people you like, the people that are, do you ever hear that saying, "Don't meet your heroes" kind of thing? It's kind of like that, some of the people you root for the hardest and make you the happiest as a fan are often the people that let you down, or are not genuinely the greatest people in real life. So that appears to be the case here. Again, I know plenty of Michigan people, fans, alumni. Not a ton, but definitely, I would say in the 10 to 20 range. And most of them are pretty damn good people. So, I'm not laughing at them. I'm not making fun of them in this situation. Who I am kind of like get a little bit of a laugh at are those, the trolls, the loud people on the internet that are always the ones to laugh at the Buckeyes if something doesn't go their way. And like they have egg on their face all the time. And the Dave Portnoys of the world, I guess, are who I'm saying. And it again, it's funny from a program perspective. Ward Manuel, I think it starts with him. Like he has been in charge with when most of these scandals have been happening, the Connor Stallion stuff, the Jim Harbaugh stuff. I mean, how many arrests have there been made in their football program alone? Like a dozen coaches have been arrested. And not to mention like the FBI case that's going on with that one coach that had all the female athletes like pictures on his phone. And it's just like and again, like every institution, if you dig deep enough, I'm sure you can find enough dirt. Ohio State, Michigan, USC, in the school, Harvard. You go down the line. These are flawed. There's a lot of many flawed people in charge. However, where I get the biggest laugh is like the Michigan man mantra. It's like, again, you mentioned it, the high and mighty. Being a Michigan man means embodying integrity, selflessness, the team, and relentless effort, focusing on doing right, no lying, no cheating, no stealing. These are words right from Jim Harbaugh's mouth for something bigger than oneself, with the highest compliment being a teammate saying it at his eulogy, representing honor, courage, and giving your best to the Hive, Jim Harbaugh. So that's what I kind of get the laugh at, the hypocrisy. Everybody screws up, maybe not to this level, but like everybody makes mistakes in life, but like the high and mightiness is what drives me nuts. And again, most Michigan people are great people, most of them, but it's the loud ones on the internet, the trolls that really are kind of, the ones that stir the pot more than anyone else. So wanted to start with that. What do you think? Like, and go ahead after that.
I was going to say, and it is like to me, like, getting again, like staying away from the individuals involved. It really is like the institution and kind of like just the, either I'm going to say the acceptance of this behavior, but like whatever's going on and the things that we're going to find out. And we can preface this by saying too, like we know a little more every day. There's probably more. I'm sure there's more we don't know than we do know.
Yeah.
And this is now like, 2 days old now. But just the fact that like, this was, I mean, we'd seen rumblings, you'd see rumblings, and you see a lot of shit on Twitter. You see a lot of shit a lot of places, right? But I've seen this like numerous times months ago, right? Or like, hey, something's going on with Sherrone Moore and his staffer. Like, and it sounds like there was some type of investigation. And, let's be honest, these things are not that hard to get to the bottom of pretty quickly. But it sounds like they basically asked each of them and they said, nope, nothing's going on. And they were like, all right, thanks for playing.
Yep.
Go on. You know what I mean? And then until she actually came forward with evidence, but it's like, so what is happening? Like you think something's happening. You do an investigation. There's phones, there's emails, there's social media accounts. It is not that hard to find evidence of this type of behavior.
So
what happened?
Let me ask this. During the investigation, which started apparently a couple months ago or in the summer or something.
Yeah.
If Sherrone Moore, if somehow they found a way to beat Ohio State and they are 10-2 and they had just beat the number one team in the country, they are going to the college football playoff. Is he the head coach of Michigan right now?
I mean, a normal human being would say no, probably not. But you're talking about Michigan right now, and you can't really trust anything that's going on there.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like, there's a lot of shit out there about Lane Kiffin too, and
Oh yeah.
he just got a better job. So yeah, you win, and things kind of take care of themselves. That's why you kind of wonder, like, why the timing now, right after signing day, after you lose to Ohio State? It's just, you can't really trust anything right now. So it's beyond the individual and the sadness of that situation. You have what was going on at the institution that dragged it out this long, that came out now. You've misled recruits, you've misled fans, you've misled boosters, you name it, right? Like, just
Right.
the on top of a giant cheating scandal where you basically, compromise the integrity of the game, which again, people really haven't, even though they were found to have done it and, got a relatively light punishment. You don't see a lot of people taking accountability for what was done. They're still celebrating the hell out of the national championship. Like, that is worth all of this. And so it really does come down to, like, and again, Ohio State, there's a, clearly there's been scandal at Ohio State. There's a documentary out there on some very bad things that happened at Ohio State. And you said it, large institutions. Again, this is not like the federal government. I'm not saying today's federal government, but federal government, for as long as there's been a federal government, has been a corrupt institution. The Catholic Church, there's been problems at the Catholic Church, right? Some of our nation's largest and most proudest institutions are wrought with questionable behavior, and the University of Michigan, and it's no different right now. And they're kind of right up there with some of the most corrupt institutions right now. And that is, like, to me, should be priority number one. If you're on the board, for that university, if you're an alumni of any stature at that university, you would want to get this cleaned up from the top down. And everybody who's been involved with this series of, problems needs to go away. And their number one thing should be, before you clean up the football program, before you worry about winning football games, is getting leadership in here that'll lead with integrity, and that maybe will embody this kind of pie in the sky idea of what a Michigan man is. But they may want to just go outside of Michigan for this and bring in somebody from the outside who isn't a part of this, like, idea that kind of seemingly doesn't exist.
Yeah. And it almost seems, and there's been talk like Sherrone, people are out to get me. And part of me believes him in that sense of, like, he was kind of the fall guy in between the Connor Stallions, Jim Harbaugh. He was kind of like the bridge coach, I've heard others say, in this, from Jim Harbaugh to finding the next guy. He was kind of like the hand-picked guy by Jim Harbaugh. But he also, let's not forget, had a 2-year show cause from that investigation. And I have never heard of a coach being hired or continuing to coach with a show cause. I'm sure it's happened before, but I don't recall.
Yeah, it was basically like he could coach it. He could continue his current job, but if he left, he could not coach anywhere else.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And talk about waking up, making what was he making, somewhere between 5 and 7 million a year. So think about waking up Wednesday morning, maybe you're on the hot seat, maybe you're, whatever, but you're pretty comfortable. You're doing well. You're in charge of a prestigious, one of the more prestigious brands in North American sports. And then later that afternoon, you are in jail and being booked and having an arraignment or a hearing or whatever it is today up in Michigan. So how the world turns.
It's the old life comes at you fast, and there will that picture, the mugshot picture, which I think has now been one-upped by the arraignment picture, where, like, it's pretty awful. It actually is really sad. I looked at it and my first thought was sadness. My second thought was, like, it literally looks like a movie. It literally looks like if he had a face mask on, he'd be Hannibal Lecter. he looks like a James Bond villain or something in a
Yeah.
padded room. You know what I mean, it's just like it is, and he just looks, and it's crazy. Like when you see no hat, no Michigan gear, just him in the prison jumpsuit, like how frankly just weak that he looks, right? Weak and
Yeah.
broken. And it's as a person, I don't know really how you come back from something like this, like, to kind of put it back together in your life. Obviously, chances of him coaching football again are probably slim to none. And,
Right.
I think, I as a fellow human being, I hope that he kind of figures his shit out and is able to, you know, put the pieces back together. Cause I mean, I think we all believe in second chances in life, probably not a second chance of being a major college football coach, but there is more to life than that. But this is just a surreal situation that becomes more and more surreal as the day goes on. But it is, but as a Buckeye fan, it's like, we certainly love to, celebrate in the misery of our rival, just like they do with us. And, again, it's a bittersweet celebration here because it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
it's the individual is one thing, but like we said, the institution, like it's just the celebration, and the celebration is probably the wrong word, but that the happiness, or not even happiness, but the feeling, the positive feeling that we feel is really just because it's the institution.
Well, a lot of the happiness of their failure comes from a lot of the trash talking that we hear online, and and again, it's one of those things. If you win the game, you're feeling great up until next year's game, until whatever the outcome is. If you lose the game, you're miserable for whatever days. And we're not players, we don't live it day to day, but like as fans, it's part of your life, it's part of your culture. And you're proud of you and I are both alumni of Ohio State. We're proud of where we went to school. But it's just it's just part of the deal. But again, we are not, at least you and I and most, there's a 10% chunk of any fan base that's out there, and they want blood. We want to win. We want our program to do well. And it's kind of like almost Ryan Day's approach. It's like, you're playing for the love of your brother. You want the love of your school and the happiness for those players you root for. You want Michigan fans and Michigan players to be sad and be upset and pissed off that they lost, but we don't want injuries. We're not rooting for deaths or like people to go to prison and shit like this. So it's a multi-layered onion here, and it's hopefully we're explaining it correctly. So So
it's such a fluid situation too that you don't know what's going to change going into tomorrow, or what are the next few days. But golly, it's a mess right now.
What and here's what I will say that does kind of irk me and piss me off. Is when finally we get the monkey off our back. We win 27-9 last week, or whatever, however many days ago, 10, 12, 14 days ago, something like that. We finally get that monkey off our back, and then you start hearing the excuses. Oh, well, X amount of players were injured, and we're playing this amount of freshmen, and like, okay, but when, we said, oh, well, we missed 2 kicks inside of 30 yards last year and we lost, like, it's like, oh, well, all we hear is excuses. It's like, stop. And then like the Sherrone Moore stuff, apparently he was, this seems very far-fetched to me, but a New York Post article says he was messaging OnlyFans models during halftime or something. And I don't know if I believe that or not. The New York Post is not the New York Times. But it is a legitimate news outlet.
And there's Bill Simmons used to have a thing called the Tyson Zone, if you've ever heard of this, and it was back in the day. It was back in like the core day of when Mike Tyson was like at peak craziness.
Okay.
And the Tyson Zone is basically when you get to a point where anything could come out. You could say anything about a certain story, person, or whatever, and it would be believable. I feel like this story right now, which is why, especially with the internet, why it's so hard to sift reality from fake, is that this story right now is in the Tyson zone. There is nothing. If ESPN came out and said, insert whatever you want, right? Like Sherrone Moore, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to put it out there, but you could say anything and it would actually be believable at this point.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, and then like the old tweets, hanging out with Diddy at a party and like just that stuff doesn't age. That ages like milk out on a summer day. So yeah. So one other point that Michigan fans are hearing, and I think sometimes maybe a little bit of the Ohio State fan base is a little bit nervous about, is they thought Sherrone, the trajectory of like his coaching career was like as high as it was going to be. You know, he beat Ohio State last year. He beat Alabama last year to finish off an 8-5 season, you know, or 8-6 season, whatever it was. They weren't very good last year. This year, you know, you get a true freshman quarterback that everybody's praising, everybody's hyping. He's making multi-millions. They come in and they're 9-2 coming into the game. They're the 15th ranked team in the country. But like people are saying now, hindsight's 2020. Oh, well, we had a shit coach, a young team. Imagine if we had a good coach. It's like people weren't saying that back, they might criticize like maybe his his time management or this and that. But now it's like, oh, this might be good for us. It's like, that's what drives me nuts. It's like they were defending this guy tooth and nail, many of them, not all, many of them, just a handful of days ago. And now they're like, oh, this might be the best thing. It's like, could you imagine if Marcus Freeman, if this story was about Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame? Could you imagine if this story was about Ryan Day at Ohio State? Could you imagine if this was about Kirby Smart at Georgia? Well, anywhere down south a little bit. Any major coach of the North, it's like so. Or Deion Sanders at Colorado. That's another good example. Could any of these examples, it's like Michigan almost gets a pass because it's like, well, it's Michigan. They're, just surrounded by scandal all the time. So any thoughts on that?
And that's the other thing too, is the arrogance of this institution. Now they may get a great coach for all we know. They get a really great coach. But, there's this idea that we're Michigan and we're just going to put the for sale sign or put the help wanted sign in front of our building and Nick Saban or Urban Meyer or Dan Campbell or Kalen DeBoer even are just going to come running. Now I get it. There's deep pockets. There's rich history. It is in name at least. It is a top tier coaching position. But again, think about if this wasn't college football and this was just like a company and you were, applying to go there was a job that opened up at a company that had a rich history, but in recent years had fraud, had bankruptcies, had, lawsuits and things like that. You're going to think twice, no matter how great that name is, to apply and work for that job. So this idea that they're just going to get whoever they want. And oh, by the way, before Jim Harbaugh, they weren't exactly getting anybody that they wanted. I mean, Rich Rodriguez, again, at the time was an up and coming coach at West Virginia. Brady Hoke was from San Diego State, right? I mean, they were not, it's not like they always think we're going to get whoever we want. And ultimately they seem to historically, aside from Jim Harbaugh, who was truly a Michigan man, they've always kind of had to settle for that, not much different than what you'd see getting hired on at a Michigan State or whatever, somebody that's maybe an up and coming coach. And they may get they may get Jed Fish, they may get Dillingham from Arizona State. I don't think they're going to get DeBoer, but this whole idea of we can get whoever we want, I think is the same comes from the same place as a lot of these other ideas that they've had over the years, that they are this superior institution, when in fact it hasn't shown to be. So,
Yep. Another name I've heard out there, this might not be the most high profile name, but it might be a guy with a pretty squeaky clean reputation that also led a pretty high academic program is David Shaw from Stanford. That is a guy that, again, you're not necessarily swinging for the fences with David Shaw, but that might be a guy that comes in and helps clean up the program, kind of like what Bill O'Brien did with Penn State. And I'm not here to give Michigan people advice on what they should or should not do. But, again, they are going to try for DeBoer, who's probably, I think he coached at Eastern Michigan. He's kind of a Midwestern guy, but it's like, is the grass greener? I don't know. Like people wanted him run out of town in Tuscaloosa after losing Florida State, but he's in the college football playoff. His team has a chance to win a national championship. Is that something you want to be? And you're also making a shit ton of money. Is that something you want to like pick up your life and move to Ann Arbor and, go into a program with a pretty bad reputation right now? So I don't know.
With an athletic director that's still there who kind of oversaw all this, which is also
I can't believe that.
Mind-boggling. And again, it's like, you question, like, does he have something on somebody that's keeping him here? If not, are they literally just keeping him on to hire a head coach because they know that they can't really hire a head coach without having an athletic director? And then if you're interviewing for the coaching position, are you going to be misled to think that the person that's, you're going to be your boss is going to stay? It's just like, they have so much egg on their face right now, but they're refusing to acknowledge that they have the egg on their face, and it's just making the whole situation worse. They should be, again, football should, and again, Michigan fans won't want to hear it, and it's coming from an Ohio State fan, but like in all reality, in any walk of life, like football should kind of come last right now. It should be like, we need to just cleanse this place from the top down. And to your point, like, do we want to bring the best football coach we could possibly bring in? Yes, but I would add the caveat of bring the best football coach that you can bring in who is going to do things the right way.
Right.
And has his shit together in his own life and is respected. Because that's really what you need right now. If you have any semblance of caring about what your reputation is, if you truly like just want to win, and maybe that's all they care about.
And let's add one more point too. You did touch on it earlier, but to kind of close this segment out, the National Signing Day. So again, you said this is not something that what should have taken months and months to figure out. This is something that all right, you're not together, that's fine, whatever. Like we'll move on. This is something that they could have easily found out, that where there's smoke, there's fire. But they kind of did it, to their credit, in a very smart way, a very strategic way. They waited till after the Ohio State game, a couple days after National Signing Day, when you get those players kind of locked in. Players cannot enter the transfer portal immediately anymore, even if their coach leaves. So the transfer portal opens up, I believe, January 2nd, and players can jump right in. Players can ask to be released from their, letter of intent or whatever it's called now. And I believe 2 players in their signing class have done that. But if you are a mother or a father of one of those kids and you're sending them to Michigan, which again has a very rich tradition of history, but their recent history is not very good. But would you feel comfortable sending your son to that with a leader of men, that they can't even take care of their own business, let alone 100, plus 18 to 23-year-olds,
Yeah. And what were they told throughout this process? Now, I guess, I don't know. If you're led to believe that this truly just all blew up in the last few days, which I don't necessarily believe, I feel like it just feels too convenient. It feels too tactical. But, that may play out. We may never know. But yeah, it's just such a bad look. And I would imagine there's going to be a pretty big exodus, and it probably, I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know what they're saying to their recruits. Like,
Right.
besides those who stay will be champions, trying to just wear the shit out of that mantra.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much you could say, right?
Yeah.
Well, other than, hey, like, hang in there. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I will say is they probably do have some NIL money. They're a pretty wealthy program. They can throw some money around, and money talks sometimes more than bullshit walks. You know what I mean? A little AC/DC nod there, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. So to plant the flag on this in Sherrone Moore's career, who do you think? Final question: who do you think the next coach of Michigan is? Or give me maybe like 2 or 3 names.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not gonna be DeBoer. Just feels unlikely. So I'm gonna go kind of what seemingly is the next guy, Jed Fish. Although I think Dillingham's starting to get a little momentum, but Jed Fish at Washington, and like I said, I mean he could do great, he could do terrible, but that feels closer to Rich Rod than it does Nick Saban.
It does. Yeah. Word on the street is Jed Fish's wife does not love Seattle, Washington. But if you don't love Seattle, Washington, I'm not sure how you're going to love it in Ann Arbor. I think he was a former OC there, but so I'm sure they have ties, but I don't know. So that would be my pick too. I shouldn't say my pick, but my best guess of who the head coach might be. They're going to throw a lot of money at the next guy. They get to get out of that Sherrone contract, so they can save a little bit of money on that, because they fired him with cause, so they do not have to pay him out of whatever 15 or 20 million they still owed him. So we're saying, Greg and I are both saying Jed Fish is the next head coach at Michigan, but we'll see how that unfolds.
I can tell you 4 guys it won't be, that all of which I've seen named as possible candidates. Dabo Swinney.
Nope.
Marcus Freeman.
Nope.
Urban Meyer.
Nope.
Dan Campbell.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I feel like I say what you want about Dabo, but if Dabo took this Michigan job in this situation right now, then essentially everything that he's stood on and prided himself on through his entire career would go right down the tubes, and there is no chance. Because say what you want about Dabo and what he's done, I believe him to be a man of integrity.
Yeah. I even saw Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator for the Browns, as a potential replacement, former Alabama OC. So maybe a young up-and-coming guy. We'll see. Hey, Kevin Stefanski might be on the market. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's names, definitely. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But
and some of those names you might have mentioned might become Ohio State's future offensive coordinator too. I can see Brian Dable in Columbus as well. But as the world turns with Michigan, another soap opera, another day, another interesting story.
And the beauty of it is we can sit back, kick our feet up. We got 19 days till we play a playoff game. They have a semi-meaningful exhibition game against Texas, but it's just, again, it's like we always talk about how good it is to be a Buckeye, and sometimes that is through most of the time it's through great things that our team's doing on the field, but sometimes it's also through just watching a shit show happen at our rival. And right now it's a little bit of both. It's
happening. All right. So to close that point out, here is the team up north. So since Ohio State's 2014 national championship season, Michigan has had some really good years in here, but they've also had some bad years. Could you imagine if Ohio State even went 8-5 during a season? Could you imagine? But this year, so to work backwards, 9-3 this year, last year 7-5 regular season, actually 8-5. We'll give them that. 15-0 in 2023, but that was the cheating was discovered in 23. The Stallion stuff. Now, Jim Harbaugh, I think, was suspended 6 games in the regular season. So tell me your title is not tainted with that. Now, I will give them the national championship. I will award them that. They did it on the field after Stallions and the sign stealing scandal. So we will give them the 23 national title. But that is, like we always say, their biggest punishment is we know it's tainted. So they had it. 2022 is the year that really irks me the most. That is the year that most cheating was going on. I believe the cheating started in 2021. So during those years, 21, 22, 23, so 25, so that's 40-3 during those years. You look at the rest of the years, something is not adding up there between those other years. So during that 2014 to 2025 run, 110-40. But if you take out those years, so what did I say? That's 40-3. So we're talking 70-37 during those other times. So, we're talking about
that's an 8-4 pace, basically. Yeah.
8-4 every year, except for the 21, 22, and 23. So it is what it is. Hopefully that national title was worth it, because what a Michigan man stands for now is very corrupt. And again, nothing on their past players, on their past alumni. They've done what they've done, but like this era of Michigan football from COVID on will now be very well tainted. It will be made fun of. There will be jokes in there. And they had some damn good players in that run, which takes away from what maybe some of them did on the field, which, but you lose all credibility when that stuff happens. So,
and you showed 12 years on that page, and yes, it's they like to talk about how much they dominated the Ohio State rivalry. There's only 4 wins in those 12 years against the Buckeyes, and unfortunately, it was 21-24. But so how quickly we forget, right?
Exactly.
Dominant. When you look back into this century, but we've talked about that. But it's just. That I don't feel that this is what I don't feel bad about. Exactly. I don't feel bad about any of this.
Nope, not at all.
Really brought all this upon themselves.
So with that said, let's turn the page and let's focus on why we should be thankful. I know Thanksgiving just happened, but we should be thankful as Buckeye fans. During that same exact time period, Ohio State is 141-18, which I didn't look into any other teams, but I can guarantee you, outside of Alabama, I don't think anyone can sniff this record. And I don't even know if Alabama's up there. I'll need to check that. But look at this, and then this is including bowl games and any losses in a national championship, semifinals, whatever. But 141-18 during that time. The consistent model of any program is Ohio State football. And that is credit to, whether you like him or not, that's credit to Urban Meyer. That is credit to Jim Tressel before him. And that is credit now to Ryan Day post Urban Meyer with what this team has done. They have not finished lower than 7th in the AP poll or the college football playoff poll at the end of the regular season. And that is unbelievable. No other program can say that.
And no 3-loss seasons, even including playoffs.
None.
Absurd.
And this year, we're even coming off of a loss right now. We are 12-1 and still the number 2 seed in the playoff. So again, coming off a 13-10 loss like we did last year, went on an epic run in the playoffs, and we have that chance to do that again. So I wanted to juxtapose those two programs and say just how lucky, how spoiled we truly are as Ohio State fans. And, you and I, especially alumni, this is a team to be proud of. Don't get too down about a Big Ten Big Ten loss. And I don't want to hear, it was so funny because that Saturday night and Sunday and even into Monday, a lot of the Michigan fans are chirping, oh, you can't win the Big Ten. Your national championship doesn't count. You can't beat Michigan. You can't beat your rival.
Yeah.
National championship doesn't count. But you know what? It does count. And there's no cheating allegations. There's no scandals. There's no coaches going to jail. This is legit. You're recruiting not just good players, but great people and your coaching staff and on the field. So, again, just wanted to share that because we need to realize how truly spoiled we are as Ohio State Buckeye fans. So I'll leave it at that. Any other final points to that?
You said it.
All right. So we went from the bad Michigan stuff to the good Ohio State stuff to, we do want to talk about this game, a 13-10 loss. We didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier this week, but 13-10 loss to Indiana. We're not going to harp on this too long, but, this is a game that was truly pretty damn close. You look at all the stats, you look at all the numbers. Ohio State left a ton of points on the field, and that's to Indiana's credit. I'm not making excuses for Ohio State. Indiana got the job done. Ohio State missed the big kick when they should have. They didn't convert on 4th and inches when they should have inside the 5-yard line, and they didn't score in the second half. So that loss is on Ohio State, and give credit to Indiana because they deserve to win that game. But all in all, these are maybe the 2 best teams in the country, and we hope we get the same matchup again in Miami, in a few weeks. So what are your kind of overall thoughts on just from that Big Ten championship game?
Yeah. I mean, I will say before we even get into the game itself, we talked about it a few times during the season, and, just really a shout out to Kurt Cignetti and what he's done at Indiana.
Yeah.
Because it was truly, I think probably almost the undisputed greatest coaching job in the history of sports was probably Herb Brooks taking a bunch of college kids to the Olympics and beating a Russian team that crushed the NHL All-Stars before the Olympics. That feels like, if that is the gold standard, if that is a 10 out of 10 of how to, do a coaching job, I would say Kurt Cignetti is about an 8.5 or a 9 on that scale, of what he's been able to do, really taking on one of the losingest programs.
They actually were by percentage the losingest program before he took over in college football.
And I would say I'd say in 2 years he's made him number 1, but that's sort of mistaken. In 1 year he made him a playoff team. In year 2 he backed that up. Again, there wasn't a ton expected from them this year. I think they might have been towards the bottom of the top 25 at the beginning of the year.
They were number 9.
And now they're the number 1 team going into the playoffs. So as far as respect for your opponent, respect for what they've done, it is truly, I don't want to quite go as far to say I'm happy for them. I will say it's a word of caution. Now they're kind of at the top of the mountain right now. So they are no longer with this game beating Big Bad Ohio State on a national stage in this game. While a great accomplishment, kind of comes a great responsibility, because now they will not be sneaking up on anybody. But tremendous accomplishment, and the thing that they can kind of hang their hat on, and that we need to go back to the drawing board on, is they really kind of lined up, and they got Caden Curry had a bit of a field day on the lines. I mean, we did pretty well on the lines, but I would say overall they sort of won the battle in the trenches against us. Especially they were able to get to Sand, sack him, I think, as much as he's been sacked all year, put pressure on him, make us feel them. They played really well defensively. Their defense was, I know, statistically really good. It was better than I thought watching them. And, and offensively, they were able, they scored 13 points. 3 of them were set up by a turnover, but they still were able to move the ball a little bit and did enough. Now, you give up 13 points, you're Ohio State, you should win the game. And clearly, when you walk away, the biggest thing that is we got to get this shit straightened out for the playoff is our red zone offense and execution continues to be kind of putrid. It's been bad all year.
We've talked about that since week 3.
It was really bad and really cost us the game. And oh, by the way, Jaden Fielding did not cost us the game. So all you idiots who are sending him threats and things like that, yes, he missed a kick. Yes, he missed kicks against Michigan. Yes, that is a concern coming into the playoff if he's going to have to kick a pressure kick. Jaden Fielding missing a chip shot field goal is not why we lost this game. Not being able to come away with touchdowns and in a lot of cases points at all in a bunch of red zone trips is why we lost this game.
Amen. And to that point, this is from 11 Warriors. Ohio State used 4 tight ends or fullbacks 7 times within the 10-yard line against Michigan and Indiana. It resulted in 1 incompletion and 6 carries for -2 rushing yards. If 11 Warriors can figure that out, if fans off the street can see it, obviously Ohio State has to know it. And if they don't, we need to shout it as loud as we can. Spread them out. Anytime you are putting Bennett Christian or, with respect to him, any of the tight ends on the field, even Max Clare or Kazmarek or whoever, anytime you are putting one of them on the field and taking Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate off the field, that is a net loss. Spread them out if you're going to run it, or roll your quarterback out and give him the run pass option. But, enough with the 4 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets. We don't have – Bo Jackson is a good back. He is not a huge power back, and he's also a freshman. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. C.J. Donaldson, we know, is okay, but, on contact, pretty much just falls down. So we need to spread them out, put your weapons in space, or give a run-pass look and see how the defense is playing you. Again, I am not an X's and O expert in football by any means, but if we can see it with our eyes and see, and it's not going to figure out a really good defensive coordinator. It's not going to take them a lot to figure out. All right, they're actually helping us out here by not spreading them out. So I'm glad you made that point.
And also, if you have the best wide receiver in college football, one-on-one at the top of the formation against a corner who's, I think, 6 inches shorter than he is, maybe and 50 pounds lighter, you may want to just throw up a fade. And I think one time we threw, but it was more of a throwaway. I think he was trying. That corner is really good. Don't get me wrong, but it was.
And that corner was actually Jeremiah Smith's teammate in high school. I think it's last name.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I think they played high school. So they have some familiarity, and he's a really good corner. But again, to your point, he's given up 6 inches and 30, 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah. And you said it with all the tight ends and stuff. Like you want, I get it. You're close to the goal line. It's jumbo formations and things like that. But put your best players out on the field. Yeah. Put the players on the field that got you there, and just show some different things. I'm sure they're going to be trying it. I'm sure Ryan Day has probably made that his personal mission to kind of figure this out. I mean, there's give Chip Kelly a call. Call Andy Reid. The Chiefs have done a great job in the red zone over the years with all their gadget plays and wrinkles, whatever it may be. Maybe you see Lincoln Keenholz get some snaps in a wildcat type formation. Maybe you go wildcat with a running back, but not the same bullshit of just lining up and thinking you're just gonna we've shown that we're not going to be able to do that, especially in a situation when everybody knows that you're running. And Sayan seems to be decent on the quarterback sneak, but that sneak that we had where his knee went down, we had a yard and a half to get a first down there. So I mean that was and it was a kind of a clunky play. So I would expect that if it's not cleaned up, well, I'll say 2 things. If it's not cleaned up in the playoff, we probably won't win the national championship. A. B, shame on the coaching staff for not having all this time. I think it'll get cleaned up.
One last point on especially the offensive coaching staff, and not to make excuses for Ohio State. I am not making excuses. They are the way more talented team. They have great coaches. With that said, they had a little bit of an issue with Chris Henry Jr. in the signing day. They had Brian Hartline leave to go to South Florida, which kind of apparently caught people by surprise. So you had a little bit of recruiting drama. You're coming off a big win against Michigan. You got to deal with your offensive coordinator leaving. So there are some distractions, let's say, leading up to that Big Ten title game, and hopefully that's all cleared. And I don't think Ryan Day has ever struggled when you give him 3 weeks to prepare or a month to prepare. I think one of the only losses he has with that amount of time was the 2019 game to Clemson, when we were by far the better team and should have won that game. But, a couple plays here and there did not go our way. But with that said, look at what he did last year, leading into the, after a bad loss, team gets its head right, has that main, at the end of the day, your main goal is still ahead of you. So,
I think, when you think about now what Day and Cignetti have to kind of battle against, I almost feel like, again, this is going to sound like a spin, but I feel like Day has easier. Yeah, I would say Day has the easier task over the next 3.5 weeks, because the team just coming off a loss, they are going to be locked in, ready to go, like ready to avenge this loss, and they are going to be ready. They're going to be tearing through that locker room door on December 31st. Cignetti has kind of the opposite of a job right now. He needs so Day's got to lift the guys up and refocus and get after it. Cignetti's got to take his guys down off their high horse right now and say, like, look, you beat Ohio State. You've done great things. You had a great regular season. You haven't won anything yet. And oh, by the way, now you're the hunted one now. You got the target on your back. So he's got to take his guys down and focus them. Like, focusing with Ohio State is not going to be that hard. Focusing Indiana, I think, is going to be more of a task. You're going to have to do that. They're probably going to have a Heisman Trophy winner. There's a lot of things that are working, to their disadvantage, which is why I feel like, and we're going to talk about it, they may have a similar fate to what happened to Oregon last year. This is a really tough spot for them to be in.
Yep. And
it's part of their evolution as a program. So it'll be really interesting to see how they come out being on top of the world and how they kind of defend that, because it almost feels like they're playing the role of Ohio State right now. They're the hunted ones. They got to be on top of their game, because teams are going to be circling that, them and saying, we're going to knock these guys off. This is the number one team.
Well, let's go right to that Heisman Trophy before we get to the college bracket. And here, so basically, here's the order of finish from 10 to 5. Haynes King, Georgia Tech quarterback. Caleb Downs, how about that? Finishing top 10 as a safety, arguably the best defensive player in the country, and should be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next year. Trinidad Chambliss, shout out to that guy, Ole Miss quarterback. If people haven't seen him, they're going to see him in the playoff. Guy's a really good quarterback, came from the D2 school in Michigan, all the way to Ole Miss, and done great things. Gunnar Stockton, quarterback of Georgia. We might see him in the semifinals. He did some really nice things this year, had some down moments, but won him some big games at some big times. Jeremiah Smith finishes top 6, and that's with missing a game and basically limited in 2 others. Pretty damn good year. First, only the 3rd Buckeye all time to go for multi-1,000-yard seasons, joining Marvin Harrison and Ibuka. So pretty elite company there. Jacob Rodriguez, a linebacker from Texas Tech. So that's pretty elite company. Caleb Downs and Jacob Rodriguez, 2 back end of the defense guys, making the Heisman Trophy top 9 in that. And so here are your final 4: Jeremiah Love, who will not play another football game this year. We'll get to that in a second. Fernando Mendoza, who we're very familiar with, probably the favorite right now. I haven't looked at the odds yet. Diego Pavia, he's got to be right up there. And then obviously Julian Sayin, who I think if Julian Sayin wins the Big Ten championship game, is probably the Heisman front runner right now. But with that loss, I'm guessing it's Fernando Mendoza or Diego Pavias to lose. So who do you think wins it? So give me your top 4. What do you think in what order are those guys finishing?
How I think it'll end up is probably, I think Mendoza is going to win, and I don't think he necessarily like had his Heisman moment on Saturday, but they won the game and
Yep.
they're undefeated, and he's the best. He's the quarterback on the best team. I think if you looked at the four of these, like kind of objectively, I think Jeremiah Love's the best football player of the four of them. I think Diego Pavia probably has the most impressive stats of the four. And then I think you just have your two quarterbacks, which I think saying statistically is probably better than Mendoza, but you have the head to head.
Yep.
So I will say it's going to be Mendoza 1. I'll say Pavia ends up being 2, saying 3, and Love 4. I do think like seeing that Jeremiah Smith was 6th and Caleb Downs is 9th, there may be some votes that could have been taken away from saying, or maybe some first place votes that could be second place votes or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think it's a little underwhelming. It would have been cool if like one of the two quarterbacks played an absolutely phenomenal game and kind of had their Heisman moment. I don't really think that happened. I do think Mendoza showed a lot of toughness, getting his clock cleaned on the first play of the game, coming back, and he did lead them to one touchdown, but that one touchdown was enough. And then
against, arguably, though, you could say Ohio State and Indiana's defense are 1-2 in the country as well, too. So I'm going to go the same order as you, except I'm going to flip Sayin and Pavia. So I'm going to go Mendoza, Sayin, Pavia, and Jeremiah Love in that order. So we shall see. It is one of the cooler awards in sports, and always great for that individual, but recruiting and things like that. So,
and then one small point, and probably a little bit of I've been so nice to Indiana, but let's hope that they've coached Mendoza on maybe to give a little bit of a better speech for the Heisman Trophy than he did after the game. I mean, I know there's some emotion there, but maybe tone it down about 6 notches for your Heisman speech.
He won't be that excited if he's getting drafted by the Browns in April. We'll see. All right, let's go to the bracket. Here's what the bracket looks like. So you got Indiana, your 1, Ohio State, your 2, opposite side of the bracket. Georgia and Ohio State are on the same side of the bracket to match up in the semifinals. Texas Tech is on the same side with Indiana as the 4 seed. So let's look at the first round games, and we'll go more from there. Let me go from here. So first games, Friday night, James Madison is taking on Oregon. That's a tough place to play for any team, let alone a Group 5 school who has probably never played in this kind of environment before. So this is your 7:30. This is a Friday night. No, it's not. I'm sorry. Alabama, Oklahoma is the Friday night game. But James Madison going into number 5 Oregon. Tulane at Ole Miss. That's an interesting game for multiple reasons. Tulane and Ole Miss played already this year. Ole Miss beat them up pretty good, but that was with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's not there. You got interesting things, but Ole Miss has a lot to play for. Still, that should be a good game. The winner of Miami and Texas A&M will play Ohio State. That's a game we'll have our eyes locked on, and that game is at noon on Saturday, December 20th. And then, obviously, Alabama, Oklahoma. That's probably the premier matchup of the weekend, and that winner will play number 1 Indiana. So before we get into those matchups, you see the first 2 teams out. Notre Dame 10-2, BYU 11-2. Now this was much talked about, and then thank God for the Notre Dame AD that the Sherrone Moore stuff came out, because it made his comments not look so bad. But what's your thoughts of Notre Dame opting out of? They're out of the CFP, but then they completely opted out of a bowl game, which sounded like sour grapes. But
yeah, I think it's sour grapes. It's not a great look. Like, right. I mean, I think, we know a lot of Notre Dame fans. Obviously, there are a lot of Notre Dame fans in Ohio, and especially in Northeast Ohio. This is a tough one because, like, you can certainly sympathize with the fact that, like, they were ranked ahead of Miami for numerous weeks ahead of the final playoff determination. So like this is one of those situations where a lot of things can be true. Like, number one, I think like Miami getting in over Notre Dame when they have very similar resumes makes sense because you have to, you want to honor the head-to-head matchup, and that would have set a bad precedent going forward. But it's also true that Notre Dame probably is a better team than Miami as you look at how they were playing. And Notre Dame has a legitimate gripe because of being ranked ahead of Miami all along. So, like, I totally get that. And I do sympathize with the Notre Dame fan. And I think the other truth is, like, there was no way that the committee could get it right because there was no right answer. Bama out would have, that a lot of people were calling for that, which could make sense. They had 3 losses, but then you would be penalizing a team that made their conference championship. Also, seems
number 1 seed in their conference.
The number 1 seed. Whatever you want to say about the SEC is a tough conference. So at the end of the day, like no matter what happened, it was going to be the wrong answer because there was no right answer. I think the problem this year, and you're always like, it feels like there's always going to be some uniqueness, like. I know that the rules say, you had Duke win ACC, and that sort of threw a wrench in things. You should not have 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff. Like, I'm like all for the little guy, and let's bring one in every year because you got to give them something to play for. You should not have 2. So, James Madison, like, great season. No offense. Like, they shouldn't be in. I know under the rules they had to be. Tulane should be the 12 seed. You probably then pop Notre Dame in as a 10 or 11 or whatever, and you kind of solve the problem. BYU still will have a complaint, but There was no way out here. That all being said, Notre Dame crying foul about getting screwed in anything related to college football is equally ridiculous because, that is akin to the rich spoiled kid who didn't get his way one time and is in the corner kicking and screaming. So not going to have a lot of sympathy for that side of it because for a lot of years and going forward, it will be happening. Like the college football landscape really is designed to keep Notre Dame in the running as much as possible in almost any circumstance. So sorry, Notre Dame fans, I don't feel bad about you being left out.
Yeah.
But I do understand complaining about it and then just saying we're not playing because of that. Okay, that's going to have some kind of financial detriment to whatever bowl they would have played in. But life goes on. You just kind of look, you look totally sour grapes and shit.
Well, two points, and then we'll move on. But the where I do feel bad for Notre Dame is I looked at the odds last weekend, and before the final rankings came out, Notre Dame actually had the 4th best odds to win the national championship. So I can see the point to that. They did lose to Miami head-to-head, legitimate loss, good win for Miami. They did lose to Texas A&M at home. However, I will say they kind of got screwed on that final touchdown for Texas A&M. Looked like a blatant hold was not called. And if that changes, then that affects the outcome for the rest of the season. Where I will say Notre Dame, where they hurt themselves is they're complaining to the ACC while they were promoting Miami over us. It's like, well, Miami's in the ACC. You are not in a conference. You are independent. If you make the college football playoff, you don't have to share that money with any other team. That money all goes to Notre Dame, just like last year. This year, I'm sorry too. It's like, it stinks. They deserve to be in based on how good their team is, but the way the rules are written, they are not in, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But that's the way it has to be. But with your group of 5.2, the only other thing I will say about that is the only way there should be one every year. I agree with that, but the only way there can or should be 2 is if they are both in the top 12.
That's fair. That's fair.
So if James Madison and Tulane somehow finish 11, 12, they should both be in. I agree with that. But
because right now you look at Ole Miss is a 17.5 point favorite over Tulane. Oregon's a 21.5 point favorite over James Madison. I mean, let's be honest. The other 2 games are good, but this is not going to be the world's most compelling weekend of football. And you would think in a 12-team playoff, that first weekend should be pretty compelling. And you have 2 games, again, that you want to give the little guy a chance, but you have two games that most likely will not be very compelling. Maybe Tulane can compete, but I don't think James Madison will be.
I will say, I was looking back at my preseason picks. I only got 5 teams in correct, but Tulane was one of them.
That was a good one.
So, yeah. And do you know how many teams are in the college football playoff this year that were in last year?
Not too many. I think it's
4.
3 or 4.
4.
Was Bama? Bama was.
Bama did not make it last year. No.
So Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and
Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Yeah.
Yep, and Georgia. So the 3 Big Ten teams and Georgia are the only repeats. So the one thing that is great to this system that I will say, in the previous 10-year cycle of the 4-team playoff, there was only 21 teams that made it total, 21 programs. There are already 20 teams that have made the college football playoff in 2 years. So
that is good.
Very, very good in that regard. Here's Notre Dame's statement that they put out. As a team, we've decided to withdraw our name from the consideration for a bowl game following the 2025 season. We appreciate all the support of our family, friends, and fans. We're hoping to bring the 12th national title to South Bend in 2026. So it kind of pisses me off a little bit from a perspective of like their team. Those guys don't get to play another game. It's obviously a very cost prohibitive move too. Like it costs money to play in these games, but you'd also make money, but not as much as the CFP, obviously. So it kind of is what it is. But that point goes to the rest of these teams have already opted out of a bowl. But I don't know why these 5 and 7 teams are opting out of a bowl. You should be begging to play in a bowl game if you are 5 and 7. Some teams, like Auburn, I'll give them a pass because they get a new coach and stuff like that. But yeah,
because I feel like, don't you, like, if you don't play in a bowl game, you're not able to practice, as far as I know.
I don't know how the rules go with that, but that's how it used to be, and that's like 20 extra practices to get some of your guys for next year ready too. So I don't know if there's been new rules on that since the system has changed, but that used to be how it was. If you didn't make a bowl game, it was almost like a double punishment. You didn't make the bowl and you didn't get those practices to help out like a lot of those younger guys for next year. So I don't know. What do you think, like, last question on this, what do you think for the future of the bowl system with the expansion of the playoffs?
I mean, I feel like it's been hanging by a thread for a long time. I mean, you look, there are not many bowls that even come close to filling up the crowd. And I remember it used to be like exciting to do like bowl polls and all that stuff. Like I don't even do them anymore. To be honest, like, and I'm about as big a college football fan as you'll find, and I don't watch very few of them. So I don't know what else they can do. If they could do like you wouldn't do like an NIT type tournament, but it is like it's been dying for a while. It really feels like it's like clinging to life, and I don't know what happens. And I scanned through some of these bowl matchups, and it's just like,
there's a couple that are like
Penn State, Clemson. There's a few. And when it's right around New Year's Day, then it's like tradition that you feel like, all right, I'm going to watch a bowl game. But like, are you going to be tuned in Saturday night to watch? Let's see, what do we have here? Well, let's see. We got Boise. Boise State at Washington isn't terrible, but then you have like Troy, Jacksonville State, Old Dominion, South Florida, Louisiana against Delaware. Like,
who's going to get excited for the Nipples and Dicks game presented by Lions?
Now, you know what? I mean, put me on the side with a few bucks on it. I might get into some of these games, but other than that, there is no. I mean, I'm not sitting here thinking about how that Delaware Blue Hens defense is going to match up against the Louisiana offense. So,
right.
It's good for the teams and it's good for the players.
Right.
But I can't imagine it's making any money because most of these are playing in half-empty stadiums, and
I'm sure it's making TV money. I'm sure it's making TV ad revenue. But like, as far as the programs and stuff, I don't know what's to be gained on that. There's obviously some value in it, but that is the only negative I can think of for the expanded college football playoff. Is it's hurting the actual bowl system a little bit more than it already was before. But at this point, it is what it is. People know what you want to watch, and these games are going to get huge ratings for the college football playoff. Once again, here's the bracket. So Alabama, Oklahoma winner will play Indiana. James Madison, Oregon winner will play Texas Tech. Miami, Texas A&M will play Ohio State. By the way, that game is in Dallas. Tulane, Ole Miss winner will play Georgia. So that's what it looks like. Again, this game, Norman, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas A&M. That's the game that's obviously we're most intrigued with because they will play the Buckeyes. So let me just ask you this before we pick our brackets here. Who would you rather play, Texas A&M or Miami? And that game will be on New Year's Eve in Dallas. So if Texas A&M wins, it's kind of like almost a borderline home game like it was for Texas last year. If Miami wins, Miami, even though they're the lower seed, might be the better top to bottom roster. So who would you rather play and why for the Cotton Bowl?
Miami may have a better roster, and maybe I'll think differently like during watching this game, but I do feel like Texas A&M is a better team. I've watched them. They're both of these teams have a lot of talent. Texas A&M, they didn't have the greatest SEC schedule, but they were a top 3 team most of the season. I would rather play Miami. I mean, being in Dallas is part of that. But I think both teams will pose a challenge. I don't love this draw. I may not be in the majority on this, but I would have rather been the 3 seed and had the Ole Miss draw personally. But I think it's going to pose a challenge either way. I'd rather play Miami.
I'm with you. I would rather play Miami. But again, I think Ohio State is the better team and should be probably at least a touchdown favorite over either of these teams. But with that said, again, if you play Texas A&M, I think we can go up and down the field on them and score. But our defense might have a little bit more of a challenge. But then again, our defense is better. So Miami, I think overall it's kind of like that might be fun for the fan bases to go back all the way back to the 2020 or 2002 season and kind of have that reminiscing old times there in a bowl game. So I'm kind of like
to get Krenzel back if that matchup happens.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna say I hope it's kind of like one of those times when you're a Browns fan and the Steelers and Ravens are playing the week before. It's like I hope the teams both just beat the hell out of each other and then come up a little bit banged up and Ohio State can just take care of business. But sounds like you and I both want Miami in this matchup. But again, we'll take whoever we get with that. So with that said, here was our run last year. And again, we had a pretty tough run last year. Obviously, Tennessee, that was the 8-9 matchup. Oregon, you go to the Rose Bowl, play the number 1 team in the country. Texas, you played in Texas. And then Notre Dame in Atlanta for the national championship. So, Greg, let's go ahead and let's just pick our bracket here real quick before we close out. And so Alabama, Oklahoma, who you like in that game?
Yeah, no Ty Simpson, I think, is banged up. Oklahoma beat them in the regular season. It's always tough to do again, but because of the quarterback potential injury, I'm going to go Oklahoma.
I'm Oklahoma on that game too. I like the fact that it's at home as well, and Oklahoma's better defense. Alabama can't run the ball either. So we're both on Oklahoma. I don't think we need to spend much time on the other one. I think we're both going to be on Oregon pretty heavily here. So let's just go. So Oklahoma, Indiana. Who do you like in that one?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of stick with my guns here that Indiana is going to struggle in this playing the favorites here. And I'm actually going to say Oklahoma beats them.
Okay, so Greg is on Oklahoma to make the semifinals. I'm going to still go with Indiana in this game to win. So Oregon, Texas Tech. Who you like in that one?
I like Oregon.
Okay, I see. We're going to be different on this one. I like Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech, next to Ohio State and Indiana, has the best defense in the country. I like them to beat Oregon in that game. So we got 2 different matchups. I Texas Tech and Indiana. Greg's got Oregon and Oklahoma. That's pretty good. I like that. So we're both, I'm assuming, going Miami in the Texas A&M game.
I'm going A&M.
Oh, you're going to go A&M. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Greg's going A&M. I'm going to go Miami just to be different in that one. Tulane, Ole Miss. I think Tulane covers, but I think Ole Miss wins. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. So we're both on Ole Miss there. So you got Texas A&M against the Buckeyes. I got Miami against the Buckeyes. I'm moving Ohio State on either way. So I got Ohio State in the semis. What do you got?
Same, likewise, Buckeyes.
Okay, Buckeyes to the semis. So Greg's semis are Ohio State. Well, we'll wrap that up in a minute. So now we got Georgia and Ole Miss, a rematch from the regular season. I like Georgia to win this game pretty comfortably, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs getting the semis. How about you?
Yeah, I like Georgia as well. I think really right now they're right up there with Ohio State and Indiana as far as the best teams.
Okay. All right. So to get to the national championship, then we'll start with the right side of the bracket since we both have Ohio State and Georgia. I'm going to the Buckeyes to not just get to the national championship, but to win the national championship. So give me Ohio State to get to the finals. How about you?
Yeah, I think Indiana got us right, hopefully, and I'm doing the same thing. Ohio State over Georgia, and then Ohio State over Oregon in the national championship.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go with a rematch of the Big Ten title game, and I'm going to go with Ohio State knocking off Indiana to win back-to-back national championships in this. We'll post that bracket out later. I know it's hard to look at that while we're talking through it without it finalized, but yeah, that is should be a fun one. And again, like the bracket, again, we're so spoiled. Don't get used to this. Don't take it for granted, but enjoy it while it's happening. All right, Greg, last thing I want to talk about, we'll do this. We'll spend about 2 minutes on this. But I know I'm in the like a fantasy. We don't talk fantasy football on this show, but like I'm in the fantasy playoffs right now, in the Final Four. And last week was our last week, and I actually had to win to get in our playoffs. But I saw this post on Twitter this week, and they said both teams colluded to bench their entire lineup. So they both ended up in a tie and they both made the playoffs, but it excluded another team from even having a chance to get in. So 2 players in the league benched all their players to force a tie and eliminate this other guy from the playoffs. He's tried to explain this is cheating and collusion, but they think they are being smart. I need help. What do you think? I think it's genius. But it's again not the true spirit of the game. I had a 5-point lead in a game last year, and I had a guy that was playing Monday Night Football, and the other team was done. I actually benched my last player and just took a 0 because you don't want a Jalen Hurts situation where you throw a pick and fumble it, lose 4 points on one play, but there's always a chance of losing. So I personally have no problem with this. I don't think it's in the spirit of the game, but what do you think on this?
Yeah, I think your situation's fine. I think that's I think that's a lot more common, and that's just kind of being smart. And this, I think, is some douchebaggery. I would kick both teams out of the league. It's creative. It is creative. Like, I get that, but it's like, spirit of competition. And also, like, this is probably, like most fantasy leagues, it's probably at most like $100 a team. So it's
right.
We're talking about $1 million league here. But yeah, it's sort of like it would be the same as like let's put it this way. Like, imagine if it's week 17. Well, remember that game actually a few years ago when it was the Raiders and the Chargers, I think, on Sunday night, where if they if they tied, they both got in, and there was some like back and forth, and it got weird.
And you know who got in because they didn't end in a tie? The freaking Pittsburgh Steelers.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
But imagine, if there would have been some scuttlebutt if like they tied in overtime. But imagine if they walked out and both teams just took knees for 60 minutes and took a 0-0 tie. How would that be affected?
That's a great point.
That's what I would say that this would be comparable to. But again, nice try. They probably never thought they'd be like nationally viral for this, but I guess you will probably start seeing in these league rules now, like any situation where teams do this, both teams will be disqualified. But
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Or at the very least, say, hey, you can start one guy. I'm starting one guy. Pick your best player.
Yeah.
Play it out. Yeah, in the true spirit of the game, play it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on that point, we will end. I told Greg, let's plan for about 30 to 45 minutes. We never go under an hour.
Right.
So I'll get that through my head. But next week, we're going to take a little break from talking football and stuff like that. We will get back to it, obviously, before the playoff. But we're doing Christmas Vacation next week. Little movie breakdown. I think this is our 11th or 12th movie breakdown. So looking forward to that. But Greg, appreciate you as always. Make sure you guys get out there, like, subscribe, tell a friend. On the 330 Sports page, just on Facebook, over the past month, there's been well over 2 million views. So I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, following. I don't know how to get my Twitter numbers up. I really don't. I guess I have to end up probably paying for one of those blue check marks to get some more algorithm going my way. But Facebook, hey, it's working. So appreciate you guys all out there for supporting the show. Appreciate you, Greg, always for joining us. And with that said, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.